I'm practicing in Gurgaon and I've been associated with dermatology since 2001, and I hope you have an informative session. Hair per se is one of the defining characteristics of mammals, and presence of hair or absence of hair has always interested humans for generations and generations to come. All parts of our skin are basically covered with hair except maybe palms and soles, mucocutaneous areas. And there are about 5 million hair follicles all across the body, of which about 1.5 to 5 lakh are just there on the scalp. So you can imagine how much do they worry or concern people. In fact, I feel these days hair are more bothering people more for their aesthetic reasons than for the medical reasons. So both too less and too more is a problem. Too much is a problem. So alopecias of all types and kinds is what worries people. That's how we see लोग आते हैं कि यार बाल नहीं हैं या बाल बहुत सारे हो गए हैं. So that is why there is so much research, and here we have a conference entirely dedicated just to hair. So we'll start with the anatomy, or what basically is hair and where did they originate. So during the partum age, that is in the fetus, the hair population, the final hair population is usually decided by the age of 22 weeks. बाकी पेट में ही बच्चे के कितने बाल होने हैं वो डिसाइड हो जाता है, और नॉर्मली बाय द टाइम child is 36 weeks in utero, the first coat of hair is already shed. So usually in utero, and the second coat of hair, these are those fine lanugo hair which we will be talking of, are shed by the time the child is 3-4 months of age. Lot of times we get parents who are really worried that their infant has lost all the hair. या तकिए पर बाल रखते हैं तो पीछे सर रखते हैं तो बाल नहीं है. So what we need to do is just reassure them ये normal physiological process है. Usually hair loss starts from the back and slowly right to the front, the frontal area, and this is a normal process. In fact, it happens twice. So there are times the same child will have 2 times the hair loss, wherein this 36-week thing which we are talking of is happening after the birth of the child. So this is something normal and this is something physiological. So based on that, if we talk of what are the types of hair that we normally come across on a human body. So we have the terminal hair, we have the vellus hair, and we have the lanugo hair. We'll go one by one what these types mean. This is the cross section of human skin. अगर आप देखेंगे तो एक hair root है. Is there a pointer or something that we can have? Okay, no problem. So if you see, this basically is the root, which is very deep. So if we look at the cross section of the skin, this is so deep that it is almost gone into the subcutaneous fat. जहाँ पे fat होता है, वहाँ पर है. This is what we call the terminal hair. सबसे deep और strongest hair होता है. बाकी सारी roots छोटी है. All these A, B, these are the basically the vellus and the lanugo hair, the finer hair. In addition to these roots, if you see, there are these nice small glands. These are the sebaceous glands or the oil glands. So the oil gland together with the root form a pilosebaceous unit, what we call as a unit which has the hair follicle as well as the sebaceous gland. And a lot of diseases originate from this whole unit together. A word about lanugo hair. These are those fine woolly like hair. A lot of times patients say that हमारे और the parents say कि बच्चे के बाल बड़े अच्छे होते थे, अब नहीं रहे हैं, soft बाल थे. वो actually transient hair है. वो they will eventually go. Whenever they go, they will go. So these are those fine woolly hair. They do not have much pigment. They're light colored and they do not have even enough thickness also. They are fine, non-medullated hair. Medulla क्या होता है वो we will just discuss once we go through the slides. These hair are there as we discussed in the fetal skin, and they are shed after the birth of the child, after maybe 3-4 months and rarely 8 to 9 months of age. Now what happens to the roots where these hair are there? the roots are there because these are the roots which are decided already. So these roots start developing what we call as the villous hair. Now the villous hair will be thicker, slightly more pigmented and bigger than the lanugo hair. So the same roots shed the lanugo hair and develop the villous hair. Villous hair are the normal hair which we normally see. Other than the thicker hair, the rest of the hair present on the body. These are very fine, they are usually soft, even they don't have much melanin or the black pigment which we are looking at, the colored pigment. They don't have a medulla, and as we discussed in the first slide, the roots are superficial, ऊपर होती हैं, roots बहुत deep नहीं होती हैं. So they are there, the finer hair on the body of the children as well as the adults. Important point to note is these hair are quietly sitting on the body. They don't get affected by any kind of hormone. The hormonal effect mainly affects the terminal hair. These are the hair which most of the times people come to us. They have a concern with. Why? Because these are pigmented. They have color. So the color gives the identity to the person. Having hair on the scalp is what they want. Having too many of them on the body is what they don't want. So these hair are deeper in the skin, and that is where the growth gets affected by hormones. In a child, the scalp hair, the eyebrows and the eyelashes in general are the terminal hair. But when these hair get affected by hormones, as the child reaches puberty, the pubic and the axillary hair also turn into terminal hair. That is, the roots start generating thicker hair. So a point to be noted is the root is the same which we talk of, which came at 22 weeks inside in the fetus, but only the nature of hair is changing. So when we talk of different treatments we do for hair, so it's the nature of hair which is generating from that root we are looking at, apart from diseases where the root is left. So yes, if a person has a hair loss, the root is intact, there are things that we can do to change the nature of hair which is coming out from there. So men develop hair at other areas other than axillary pubic hair, like the beard skin, the body hair, and women, in case of any kind of hormonal influences where the male hormone component rises, they can also develop terminal hair at other areas of the body. So these are the terminal hair. Now let's have a look at the microscopic structure. Microscopically, if we talk of the hair root, there are three types, what we call as the anagen hair, the catagen hair and the telogen hair. So I will just be going through this diagram later on, but if we look at the anagen anatomy, if you look at this diagram, you will see that there are four parts. The deepest is the bulb, the suprabulbar area, the isthmus and the infundibulum. The bulb is the area of a growing hair where all the action is happening. This is where the new hair is generated. We have a dermal papilla which has the matrix. Matrix is where the growth happens, the new cells come up, and this is present inside the dermal papilla. It is like a bud from which a new flower, or we can say a root from where a new plant is growing. This dermal papilla is basically generating a hair shaft, and outside the hair shaft we have the sheaths, the inner and the outer root sheaths. These parts are more visible as we go up, as the hair grows and it goes up and we reach the suprabulbar area. That's where all these things are more visible, because the shaft, as we will see it outside the body or visible from the from the naked eye, is where we see it. So here we will have the hair shaft surrounded by the two sheaths. The hair shaft, if we look at, is what we see in a cross section having three layers. The innermost being the medulla, the cortex and the cuticle. It's important to know that this is what a hair shaft is composed of, because when the hair grows out, as you would notice, they do not have any blood supply, they do not have any vasculature or even innervation, no nerves. That is the reason from practical purposes, once the hair is out, it's like a dead skeleton sitting there. Probably what we eat will have actually no influence on the hair which is already sitting on our scalp. It has already received what it had to long time back. But of course, what is growing, what will eventually come out will have an influence. So that is where the role of taking care of this dead hair by things that we do to them later, as in apart from what we are eating, applies. So understanding the hair shaft structure is very important to guide the patient to understand the treatments what are available around. Medulla being the centermost part of the hair is shaft is where the keratin is there. Keratin is the hair protein, but it is present in a very spongy form out here. Medulla gives the color to the hair. When we talk of hair dyes or hair colors, that is where the hair color is reaching. So you can imagine that through the shaft, the hair goes through, the color goes through all these layers and it reaches the medulla. Hair like the lanugo and the vellus hair, which is discussed, the softer ones, do not have a medulla. After the medulla is what we say the cortex. This cortex is very important because this is what gives strength to the hair, the tensile strength, how strong a hair is, whether the shaft will break or not break. This is the area which is rich in keratin and tough keratin along with a lot of cysteine and sulfur and disulfide bonds. When we talk of rebonding, we are breaking these disulfide bonds, we are reforming the disulfide bonds, and other forms of straightening that is happening in the hair is basically happening at the level of the cortex. So you can also imagine that any chemical which is supposed to be reaching the cortex has to go through the cuticle inside this layer. So there are a lot of steps involved which can potentially damage the shaft, and we all should remember it's a non-living area. Once the damage is there, there is no support from our body to repair that support. So after the cortex is the outer covering called the cuticle. This cuticle is basically made of these flat cells which are like tiles. They are overlapped and they are tightly kind of sealed together and interlocked. So they form like a seal or a coating on our hair. This coating is very important. This is not giving strength to the hair. This is not making sure that the hair doesn't break or something, but this is like a protective coating, like we put varnish or a polished wooden surface so that nothing goes inside. This is our coating for the hair. Cuticle can get disturbed by a lot of factors, lot of wear and tear, grooming damage, sun, pollution. Then all that happens to the hair over years while the cuticle or the hair shaft is sitting on a hair. That could be all the chemical treatments, blow drying, and whatnot is done to the hair. That all stays here. This hair shaft, the poor hair shaft remembers everything. Why? Because it cannot repair it. So what we do to our hair, and these hair shafts, as we'll be discussing later, they can have a life of as long as 2 to 6, 5 or 7 years. So over 7 years, you can imagine what all goes through the hair is sitting here. So the cuticle is very important when we talk of hair color or chemicals being driven into the hair. These seals or the interlocking between the cuticular scales is opened up. The chemical goes inside to the cortex or the medulla and the seals are resealed. So there are times where this resealing doesn't happen or gets disturbed. So you have a shaft where the protective barrier is weak. The patient may not notice it initially. They're happy, they get the treatment done, whatever treatment in the parlor or wherever. But as time goes by, they are weak barriers. The cuticle has become weak. The additional damage, whether it is grooming, whether it is doing anything else to the hair, the shaft becomes weak. That's when the patients come के बाल टूटते हैं. जड़ से नहीं जरूरी निकल रहे हैं, but टूटते हैं because the shaft has become weak. So, we as doctors over time have evolved. We look at root, क्या देना है, कहाँ से root से क्या आ रहा है, क्या आ रहा है. Because what we eat, as I said, will not affect the shaft. So, actually speaking, this is one area of the body. As a dermatologist, I feel that we have to look beyond being a clinician. We have to look beyond medicines. We have to look how to support the shaft from outside, because we can't go inside it. So all kind of conditioners, if we look at all kind of serums or other ingredients which can kind of cover this cuticle which is damaged, can be protected from any kind of grooming damage. And we can also guide our patients. If we feel that the shafts look weak, there are people who get straightening done n number of times. They get addicted to it. And by the time they realize it's too late, it's actually too late. So it's important to guide, identify, tell them that look, this is what is happening and now you'll have to stop it and protect these shafts. Take good nutrition, look for other causes of hair loss and wait. Because by the time these get replaced by new shafts, you need time. It's not going to happen as a magic. It will take a couple of months to maybe years. So we were talking about the hair part. So we discussed about what we said was a hair anagen phase. After the anagen hair, we also look at the catagen hair and the telogen hair. So anagen was the growing hair. The catagen phase hair is the resting hair. So if we look here, this was the anagen hair, the dermal papilla sitting at the deepest part where the hair has started multiplying and the shaft has started growing out. In the catagen phase, this dermal papilla gets quiet. The hair is not growing anymore. The matrix starts resolving, the papilla forms a small ball, a dense ball, and it starts rising up. What you see here is basically what we call the erector pili muscle. This is the muscle which contracts and we get what we call as goosebumps. You see that the hair roots just stand up like in attention. So these are the roots, the muscles which contract. So whenever there is any kind of anxiety, cold, lot of sympathetic stimulation, they are innervated. So this is a very important landmark, the insertion of erector pili muscle for hair root. Why? Because this is where this dermal papilla as a quiet ball will finally reach and stop. And it stop and reach a sleep mode. And what is left behind would be this thin epithelial column of just a sheet-like structure, fibrotic structure. So while this matrix as a papillary ball is reaching up, this is a transitional stage called the catagen stage. And finally it reaches here in the telogen stage, that is called the shedding stage. The hair is now totally loose with this root sitting here. This is the root we call as the club root. The club root, just like you have a golf club with a thick ball at the bottom, we call it as a club root. And right next to it, we talked about the insertion of the erector pili muscle. This point is very important because now where will a new hair come from? It is said that this is the point, it is not the hair bulb, but we call it as the hair bulge. Bulge where all the matrix cells or the germ cells are sitting. Germ cells जहाँ से नया जीवन आएगा. So जो new hair growth आएगी वो bulge से आती है. ठीक है? So there is this thing about hair, how the hair lasers develop, the hair removal lasers. So they have now been designed in a way they target the bulge. Because if they target only the bulb, the hair will still grow. Why? Because germ cells are sitting in the bulge area. That is the reason years back when electrolysis, thermolysis was the only way how permanent hair reduction used to happen, were very blind. Because as a blind procedure, you would insert a needle, assuming that you are reaching the bulb or the bulge, give a shot of electric impulse or thermal impulse and expect कि वहाँ से root चली जाएगी. But blind procedure, आपको नहीं पता कितना deep root है, कितना deep सब कुछ है. आप root सीधी है या टेढ़ी है, वो भी नहीं पता है. So that is the reason वो बहुत successful नहीं होते थे. So bulge becomes very important for hair regrowth. And once this hair is lying in a loosened state in the telogen stage, if you see the root is higher up, so it is not very tight. This is the hair which is shed. When we talk of hair being normally shed, we are talking of the telogen hair being shed. And these hair finally are left out. And a new hair starts growing from below the dermal papilla. So this completes the hair cycle, which we'll be coming to later through the hair cycle slides. So what is a hair cycle? It is just a repetitive sequence of growth and rest. If we talked about this diagram, so we saw 4 parts in the hair, the bulb and the suprabulbar area. These are the 2 areas which are non-permanent areas of the hair. We just talked about the 3 styles, wherein the anagen, telogen, catagen and the telogen phase. The bulb and the suprabulbar areas were not there in the telogen phase. So these are the non-permanent areas. They come, they go, they grow and then they get dissolved. And the upper 2 areas are the fixed areas if we talk of. So the hair follows cycle, wherein the anagen phase, which we just discussed, is the active growth phase. Anagen phase is very important because this gives the final length to the hair. The longer a hair stays in an anagen phase, the healthier the hair would be. It will absorb, because that is where all the nutrition, all the growth is happening in the hair strength is coming. As we discussed, once it's there, it's just a dead tissue. So it is depositing all the proteins, the keratin, the other ingredients, even the cortex is becoming stronger. So this determines the final length of the hair. On an average, this should last about 2 to 7 years. The longer the better. And about 80 to 90% of our scalp hair are in the anagen phase. Next is your catagen phase. We just discussed it's a small phase where transition is happening from a growing to a resting hair. This is a very short phase for about 2 to 3 weeks, and hardly about 1% of the hair are in this phase. And then we have the telogen phase, which we just discussed is the regression stage. This lasts for about 3 to 4 months, and about 8 to 9% of the hair are in this phase. Now when a patient comes to us and he says, I have hair loss, first thing we should ask is कितने बाल गिर रहे हैं? Because it's a very individual thing. थोड़े से भी गिर रहे होंगे तो बोल सकते हैं बहुत गिर रहे हैं. अब अगर वो नॉर्मल है तो हम उसको कैसे ट्रीट कर सकते हैं? हम कुछ नहीं कर सकते. We just have to reassure them, probably guide them how to take general care. So we have to first identify, is it a disease or is it not a disease? So normal hair which are shed are usually the telogen hair. And as we see, they are just 8 to 9% of our scalp. About 100 hair, 50 to 100 hair is what would be shed on a everyday basis. So these are usually these telogen hair. But what happens is, a lot of times after a child is born, the mother at the age of maybe the child is 3-4 months of age or 5 months of age, they come to us with a very bothersome complaint that the hair have been lost to a large extent and they are having a very large hair shedding which they've never noticed before. Why does that happen? Because hormones, the estrogen levels in the body are very high. Pregnancy में estrogen levels ज़्यादा होते हैं to support the pregnancy. और estrogen क्या करता है? वो बालों को anagen phase में रखता है, growth phase में रखता है और उनको telogen phase में जाने ही नहीं देता है. So actually में during the pregnancy the patients feel that the hair are very nice. So you have good 9 months, the hair stays and they grow, they also gather length. We know the hair, the longer it stays in the anagen phase, the longer and the nicer the hair becomes. But after the delivery, the estrogen levels come down. So there is no more that support. So all the hair which have actually were destined to reach the telogen phase, उन्होंने जाना ही था eventually. वो रुके हुए थे, अब वो सारे के सारे चले गए. वैसे तो 8 to 9% जाते, अब 50% बाल पहुंच गए हैं telogen phase में. ठीक है? So about they will take good 3, 4 or 5 months to reach that phase, to actually be shed, to be visible that okay, now they are falling off. That is when the mother is absolutely fine, she had recovered from the pregnancy, the delivery, the baby is also grown up and she's like, ab kya, now why am I losing my hair, I'm eating well, I'm doing everything fine. So that is just that what we call as telogen effluvium, as in the loss of these hair. So it's important to identify as to what is the cause. Sometimes all you need to do is, find out and then reassure them, guide them what is the next to be done. Similarly, at the time of one simple example is chemotherapy. Chemotherapy के बाद भी बाल झड़ते हैं और बहुत सारे बाल, practically सारे बाल झड़ जाते हैं. What chemotherapy does? It works on the actively dividing cells of our body. actively, fast multiplying cells. That is what we think of as the cancer cells. So in this case, what is the actively dividing part of a body? The anagen hair. Anagen hair, in fact, hair is very fast. It is the fastest multiplying cells in our body. So they are the first ones. They are like innocent bystanders who get attacked while the cancer cells are being killed. So they get lost. And in that case, we call it as anagen effluvium, where we are losing the anagen hair. So that's just a word about how we can interpret these cycles into our practical implications of when we see a patient. It's also important to know how fast these hair grow, the root of hair, the rate of hair growth. The fastest is definitely your scalp hair, about half a centimeter in 24 hours. That is how fast it is supposed to be. The slowest is, of course, the body hair. And your chin hair, the facial hairs are somewhere in between. This is very important when we are guiding them for laser hair reduction. Like I get a lot of patients we treat them for permanent hair reduction with lasers, and they ask that how frequently should they come for laser hair reduction. What I tell them is that I can't decide, you can't decide, your hair will decide. When they grow back, that's when you're supposed to come for your next session. And how do we give them an idea when you need to come back? Body hair will grow slowly, while your facial hair will grow relatively faster. And that is something we do notice when people go for threading, for facial hair, they need to go more frequently, unlike waxing or anything else. So there are a lot of factors which affect the hair growth. Multiple cytokines, growth factors which are involved in hair growth. And many of them form a basis of a lot of stem cell therapies and other mesotherapies which are being done. Similarly, hormones, which discuss the effect of estrogens. Androgens are very important because, as we just discussed, they lead to a lot of growth and conversion to terminal hair, and the other hormones. Thyroid hormone is also very tricky because thyroid hormone, both less and more can be a problem. Androgens, less amount of androgens basically will stimulate the axillary pubic hair, but when they become in higher levels, they can cause hair on other areas. And surprisingly, the scalp responds in a reverse manner. More androgens, less hair on the scalp, unlike the body hair. So clinical assessment, we've already discussed how much hair is there, duration, whether it is a sudden loss or a long loss, has been there for a chronic or a long time. It's important to understand their general health status, whether they've had any infection, fever, tuberculosis, malignancies, surgeries, thyroid. In women, it's important to know the cycles. Polycystic ovarian disease is very common with male hormones being causing irregularity, then pregnancy, and diet. Crash diets, any kind of weight loss, recent weight loss, and then of course we discussed about the hair hygiene and cosmetic procedures, all kind of straightening and dyes. All of them can affect the hair growth or the hair loss. Similarly, patterned hair loss in men and women is something we need to identify clinically. So clinical examination of patients, looking for other features like acne, hirsutism, they will give an indicator into what sort of a hair loss is there. And that is the way how hair evaluation methods come into play. There are multiple of them, whether we talk of pull tests, growths, the microscopic examination. So hair pull test is where we pull the hair. These are definitely very, they're not done that frequently these days, but we pull the hair, find out what kind of hair are there inside. It's also important to know how we can identify telogen and anagen hair microscopically, because pulling itself is not important. You should know how many anagen hair are there, telogen hair are there. So there are indicators to see the club-shaped hair in case of telogen hair, or these angulated anagen hair under the microscope, of course. And as I discussed the counts, kitne baal ghirte hain, you can ask them to collect hair over 7 days, keep each day's hair in a packet and see, tell them to just count and let you know that what is the loss per day, more than 100 or not. All these are good and easy methods, but they all are very non-standardized. There is no particular method. One doctor might be able to assess differently than the other, so they are non-diagnostic. So how do we have fixed methods? Of course, photographies help in hair transplants and other hair growth therapies. We can have a standardized way how we take the photographs and then compare them later. Dermoscopy is what has revolutionized things these days. We don't have to actually pull out hair. look at the pictures. Dermoscopy is one thing where there is an exclusive workshop that can be organized, how the hair can be visualized under a dermoscope, ways how we identify different types of hair. Trichogram is what initially was done where the hair were pulled out with a hemostat and examined under microscope. Again the same thing, you need to identify which is anagen or a catagen hair or a telogen hair, count them, see how many are there. These days focus has shifted to what we call as phototrichograms, wherein we take photos. We remove the hair from a certain area, take a picture after 48 hours. It is assumed telogen hair will not grow. But how do we identify telogen hair? The hair which are not growing are telogen hair. So trichoscan will find out hair automatically. It's a machine you place, and on the assumption that telogen will not grow, it will kind of count, tell you in the surface area, these many hair are telogen, these many are anagen. So these are different ways how we can assess. Then of course we can do microscopy, we can pull a shaft, see under a microscope. These are very important in things like fungal infections in hair. You can actually see, this is a picture of white Piedra. Similarly, even dermatophytes which we see these days, we can actually see the spores sitting inside the hair. This is one of the congenital hair disorders where we see what we call this tiger stripe pattern. So these are all things that can be done. Eventually, all patients will not, but there are categories where a scalp biopsy will be needed. These are the cases where we have scarring alopecia, where cicatricial or scarring alopecia, or there is some other disease which needs to be identified histopathologically. So scalp biopsy will be helpful in assessing these cases. But to do a scalp biopsy or not is something that we need to reach after going through the entire gamut of things that we just discussed. So it's good to spend some time listening to the patient's complaint, find out the clinical history, examine patiently and decide the diagnosis, and then the treatment will automatically follow, whatever it be. Thanks.